let's start with the memories of John Cena, because John Cena, we did have physicality during the ECW kind of invasion thing where Sabu had that really great match with Cena. But previous to that, I did a promo at ringside with PJ and Balls Mahoney, and then Cena came out and hit us with chair shots. So there was some interaction with Cena. The only other interaction I have with Cena, it's my favorite, is I was a huge fan of the Marine because I watched that trailer during the commercial breaks each and every week on Raw. So I was really familiar with the Marine trailer, and I was hyped for it because I watched that trailer, like I said, more than anybody. So Cena and I had a thing for a few months where when he wasn't filming the Marine and he came back somewhat, mostly full time, if I saw him in an airport, if I saw him at the gym, anywhere at all, I'd scream across, say, the security line, "Hey, John, they have a hostage." And he'd shout back, "It's my wife," because that was the line from the trailer. So as silly as it sounds, we had some sort of rapport with that. It sucks that I didn't even get to work Cena on a level of providing an obstacle to Sabu or something like that, because I did pitch that during that time. Let me work John and at least try to get some heat on him and put a roadblock up in the ECW thing that he's trying to fight, eventually getting to Rob at One Night Stand. So at least get a match with Cena, a little bit of a bucket list. Like you said, Batista, Brock, Orton, all these people from OVW I worked, I was aware of that. And Cena was definitely one I wanted to work. So Brock, man, I told you this before. The thing that stands out is that tag match in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where we dominated that match, Dreamer and I, against Brock and Randy Orton. If you don't believe me, just trust me, bro. How's that? But I remember the memories, as you would put in an RF Shoot interview, the memories I have of that is only one thing and one thing alone. The fact that my back was to one side of a WWE 20-foot by 20-foot ring, back against these ropes here, belly to belly with no jump, just snatched me, threw me, and my heels hit the other rope on the other side of the ring. It was like Rocky. The only thing that stopped me from being Rocky to go into the first 4 rows was the ring ropes. It was scary, dude. I felt like that's where time stood still, and I'm like, I'm never going to land. It's like that little, thing where they kind of like clip out somebody and they're just flying around the globe over and over again. That's what I felt like.
Have you seen? It's a fan-made thing, obviously, where Scott Hall takes the stunner at WrestleMania 18. He was doing that thing where he was jumping as high as possible.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah,
yeah, and then someone's edited it where he just keeps jumping and then he jumps over the moon.
I did see that. Wasn't there another one where? There's a ton of wrestling memes where someone gets hit with something, and they're just, like you said, they're shooting through the universe out into the Oort cloud and everything. So yeah, that was real for me though. I literally saw other planets outside the solar system when he bellied me.
What goes through your mind when you are wrestling somebody? Obviously, he had more pedigree than some of the people we were going to name on this list. As like a super green, ultra muscle bound guy that is quite excitable. How do you even go about one, calming them down, or just trying not to get hurt?
Well, I'll take a saying from Taz. Survive if they let you. That's all it is. It's a game of survival. It's a game of almost, if I knew better and he didn't tell me, well, he didn't really tell me, but if he told me, just resist with all your might and you'll land in the center of the ring off the belly to belly, I would have done that. I would have not, because I didn't jump at all. I would have did a Tajiri sandbag just to hit the middle of the ring. There's nothing you can do because the other people on the list that were developmental, like a Heidenreich and other people, that's when you get hurt. And then you get the Chris Masters in his debut match coming from a place of developmental as well, where they're telling him this is your only shot. And if you don't take his head off with the Polish hammer, you're never coming back. I mean, not word for word, but the hint was there. So that's the part where the developmental system needs to, number one, smarten these guys up to a point where you're not an amateur wrestler anymore. You're not, you're not deadlifting 1,000 pounds. You got to take care of this guy and land him flat. But that's hard, man, coming from a legitimate world of those types of competitive sports to wrestling, and you're asking me to just give 5% effort. It's a hard thing to master.
But I've seen this with other people where they everyone's just used to jumping to help, and then there are certain wrestlers like a Brock or maybe a Braun Strowman or whoever else it might be who's just very strong, where you specifically do not jump for them because they insist on throwing you, with all their might kind of thing. So is that something you would have to go to a Brock and say, do you want me to jump or do you want me to trust you and you will get me over?
Oh, after that match, absolutely.
Yeah.
I had all the questions I needed to write down and ask from that point on. We didn't really work after that loop, that short house show loop. Like I said, I think I was going back and forth from developmental. We did some house shows with Dreamer and then maybe would go back or go back home because we were off TV during that time. So I'm thinking we're still kind of trying to prove ourselves in the developmental system. But at the same time, it's an instinctive thing. It's like saying people from pro wrestling going in MMA, it's really tough to go from something where you're trying not to hit somebody to going from that to trying to hit somebody as hard as you can to knock them out. And then going back and forth like a Lashley, a Batista, and other people trying to live in two different worlds at the same time. It's very, very hard. I would say Brock was the best one at doing that because he came back from MMA, being UFC champion, to now adjusting to work.
So how many times did you wrestle Brock? Because it was only on a house show loop for a few shots, if that, I guess. So I've only got one match recorded.
It may have been one, it may have been two. I don't think it was in the 1 to the 2, one or a couple, but not like a few, 3, 4, 5. I don't think that was a complete loop of anything. I think they were doing stuff with Brock and Randy to see how they work against different people on the way to doing that. And that match might have been the idea for The Office to say, even though it was an easy pick, Stevie will be Randy's first match. Because it could have been Tommy. Tommy was in that spot too, to work somebody that was new kind of in their first few weeks on TV.
Did Brock go for the shooting star press?
No, he didn't, but I think he hit the shooting star press. I believe in that dark match we spoke about before where he tugged with Shelton Benjamin in Minnesota where they got, that was their college area right there. So I think he did the shooting star in that match. I know previous to WrestleMania 19, he had done that shooting star press. Otherwise, nobody would have had the idea in their head to do it, to tell him to do it. Or in Shane's way, dare him to do it.
What was the finish of your match? Who got the pin on who, if you remember? I know this
I got the pin on Brock. Come on, man. We're talking reality-based house shows here.
Oh, of course.
No, Dreamer, I think, got the pin off it wasn't on Brock. It was on Randy, I believe. And it was definitely the DDT on Dreamer, but it might have been out of nowhere super kick. Then me and Brock might have peeled out as you would in a tag match to give them the ring. But I'm not sure. I can't really. I'm assuming there's no way in hell I got the pin on anybody.
With that being said, do you remember anything else from the match then, or just how Brock worked? Was he okay? Did he impress you in any way? I mean, apart from his strength, of course.
Well, you just look at a guy like that and you're like, in that era of WWE, they started to have people who used their real names here and there. There was Dolph Ziggler, obviously, coming later down the pipeline. But the Randy Orton and Brock Lesnar, it was like, okay, they seem like they're going to use their real names. Randy's a third-generation superstar. That's super easy. Brock is an amateur wrestler, but how are you going to... He's already larger than life, but how are you going to make him larger than life in a storyline sense, in a character sense? And the easy answer was, give it him. We didn't even know if he could talk, which he's proven he can talk. They gave him Paul Heyman. And I'm like, okay, now it makes sense. He's an agent, an advocate. He's an agent. He was his agent back then, like a legitimate agent manager type role. And all Brock had to do was just destroy people. But you still said from that point on, when he gets in the ring with somebody like The Rock, what's going to happen? Oh my God, he's going over clean on The Rock. Okay, he is the next big thing. There's no doubt. They were calling him that, but he proved it each and every night. And then that match was SummerSlam, I believe, against Rock. SummerSlam 2002. Same show with Hunter and Sean, correct? With the street fight, I believe.
Yeah. Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio was the opener
Long
as well.
Island, New York, Nassau Coliseum, I believe. If CT didn't get me in this episode, it will eventually. But he was the next big thing. I mean, the early thing with Brock was on TV was literally, I remember the Hardys hitting him in the head as hard as they could with chairs, him no-selling, and then him with the Hardys and especially with Spike, 3 to 4 just like tuck power bombs. Remember that? And I was like, is that his finish? Just power bombing people to no end?
You've broken a memory for me. Wasn't Brock being punished with a loss to the Hardys at one point? Am I going completely crazy?
He did an angle with the Hardys. He laid one of them out, and then Jeff, I believe, came in and they started lighting them up with chairs. These were some. You talk about my chair shot on JBL, man. It's got nothing on the way they were hitting Brock with these chairs.
Something in my brain is telling me that Brock had done something and he was punished with a loss to one of the Hardys, like early on in his career. I mean, no one remembers it practically. But for some reason, that stuck in the back of my mind. I wonder if anyone can confirm that in the comments.
Well, he had that run-in with Cornette and stuff, and they said or they acted a certain way towards Cornette's wife during that time. There was a couple things in OVW, I believe, that might have, because he was
popped for steroids. He was popped for buying steroids and whatever, but that was like the year before. But this was when he was still on the main roster, and they got him to lose on TV. And for the life of me, I can't remember.
Well,
why.
that's well past the Cornette thing too, because that happened all sort of within the same time frame. For all I know, they could have been testing him to see his attitude. How do you handle a woman not completely behind you? I don't know. I do remember the Hardys were given some offense that nobody else was given at the time. Like you said, the chairs, other things. And I think they even laid them out, didn't they? Like the Swanton and stuff like that.
Yeah, they were the first person to
get over on him a little bit.
Pretty much, yeah. To sort of wrap this up then, I guess, it's easy to say in hindsight what Brock Lesnar was going to be, but you were wrestling, as I say, we're going to be talking about Ron Waterman soon. You, Batista, you had quite a good few matches with Brock as well, some other guys from OVW, a lot of up-and-comers in the 2002-2004 period. Is it just easy to say, well, I wrestled Brock and I knew he was going to be a massive star? Or did he not particularly stand out compared to a number of other guys coming up from OVW at the time?
Well, I answered the latter question first. Absolutely. Because you compare him to somebody like Ron Waterman, and we'll do a watch along about that and talk about that. Ron Waterman and other people, Ron had an MMA background as well. Brock had an MMA future that we didn't even quite know about at this point. But looking at Ron Waterman and then other big muscled up guys, and then comparing them to two people I could think of right off the bat, Brock and Batista. Brock and Batista, but Brock more so, had a suddenness and a crispness to his moves, his body language, the way he could move. He was extremely mobile for what he could do and his size. Ron Waterman was the stiff, one-dimensional, big, muscle-headed pro wrestler. That's the difference. Brock, even picking you up for the F5, there's a suddenness and that's why he couldn't jump, because you're already up on his shoulders before you could jump. But do you see what I mean? If you watch Brock, here's even something like this. Ron Waterman would pick you up. Brock would snatch you and have that stink on it. He wouldn't hurt you, but you knew you were being handled. Ron Waterman, you could see there was a little bit of a phoniness involved, cooperation, where Brock, you're like, ooh, he's the next big thing. He's the real thing. So working him, I could say, yeah, he had something to him, but at the same time, if the machine doesn't get behind you, anybody could be a Ron Waterman. Brock could have been watching the Marine trailer during commercial breaks. Mm-hmm. That's all up to them.